Join us on Geek Blood, the show you can't ignore. Wayne and Kevin diving deep into all things galore. Comic book, movie, sci-fi, and action thrill. Reviewing new TV shows, we keep it real, real. Reminiscing the attitude era, wrestling at its peak. Nostalgia from the 80s and 90s, memories we seek. Pineapples for our rings, a unique touch. Geek culture in our blood, we love it so much. Geek Blood forever, we love it so much. Geek Blood, where we talk about it all. From superheroes to wrestlers, we stand tall. Ray and Kevin, the dynamic duo in sight. Geek Blood, shining bright, shining bright. Did you hear about Pluto? That's messed up, right? Geek Blood, taking you on a nostalgia flight. From movies to TV, we cover it all. Join us every week, we'll have a ball. Shuffle.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Good to hear.
We are Columbus Day weekend, so you're at
Yes.
the end of your season, finally.
Thank fucking God. Thank God.
What are you looking forward to doing this winter? You have any plans this winter? You gonna be working? You gonna be hanging out at home?
I've been watching a lot of movies, and I have a backlog of
Catching
comics
up.
I've been buying all fucking summer.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
once I finally figured out we had a comic shop near us, I spent way too much money at said comic shop near us. Plus, Amazon keeps throwing fucking deals at me, so I have a ton of stuff to catch
They've
up on.
Amazon has had a lot of good deals. Marvel
Yes.
too. I noticed
And my
that.
whole thing too is like I started reading again, pretty much during COVID, but like I wasn't going to a shop, so I'm pretty much buying a lot of stuff I've already read, but I want to actually own it and pay for it so that the right artists or whatnot get their money and stuff like that.
The trade paperbacks
yes,
usually.
the trade
That's
paperbacks.
that's what I've been getting lately too.
I'm going to talk about this is the first one issue comic I've read. I'm going to be talking about it later.
Guess what?
Coming up.
So
the
did I.
series. Oh, you did?
I bought it digitally though. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I don't like doing the week to week or the month to month stuff.
Me neither. Me neither. I hate it.
I like a full story. And
Yeah.
that's what screwed me up when I was younger. I'd always want to get a full story, but I could only afford the $4 comics in the rack. So now that I'm older and actually have, I wouldn't say disposable income, but I have monies.
Monies, yeah.
That I can spend on some comics I've always wanted to read, or maybe that ones I've read and I'd like to read again, because I'd also rather read the paper version of said comics.
Me too.
So, digital is cool, but I do like to have the comic in hand. But let's get into the show.
Yep, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're in the middle of the Halloween season, so we get some Halloween movies. We've got our Road to the Crow, which we're going to be watching next week with a awful movie. But we'll
I've
talk
already
about.
raised my rating of the new one after watching the last two.
I kind of figured that was going to be my question when we get into it. But first, we're going to talk about TV shows that aired this week.
Sir.
Only Murders in the Building. It's getting really good. We're on episode 7. There's 10 episodes this season, so we get 3 more weeks of that. Agatha All Along airs on Wednesday nights. I'm really liking this show. Episode 5, we finally don't hear his name, but we see Teen in his full form.
Yep.
And Agatha does mention that his mother was a little wacky too, which is Wanda, of course. But a show that I'm excited to get your take on, because I know the last season of Superman and Lois debuted this week. I know you watched the first episode, and I know from what I've seen online, what you said, that they're kind of adapting the death of Superman with Doomsday.
Yes.
So what is your take on everything?
The way season 3 ends, Lex creates Doomsday, and there's like 4 minutes left in the fucking episode, and Doomsday and Superman start fighting. So it ends up being taken out into space. Superman punchy. They end up fighting. They end up on the moon, basically, is where they're at. And the end of season 3 is them just going at each other, like flying at each other. Then it ends and whatever. So this whole season is going to revolve around the death of Superman, in that arc. So the entire first episode plays out, and by the end of it, obviously Superman, they're doing the death of Superman. It's not really a spoiler. Superman's dead. It's incredibly heartbreaking. You get Lois and the kids' reaction to it as they find his body, and
which
they
is a
turn him
different
over.
take from the comic book. Because in the comic book, he doesn't have kids. It's just
Right.
him and Lois.
At
I
this
don't even
point.
think they're married at that point in the comic book.
They are not.
92.
They're
No.
engaged. They're supposed to be married. I
They're
believe.
engaged. Okay.
So the kids find him and they like roll over his body, and he has no heart. Doomsday took his heart out of his body.
Yeah. Okay.
So then, this is why I
Interesting.
told you they're doing something we've never seen before in live action. So Lex gets the news that Superman's dead, and they're about to go meet up with Doomsday to get his heart, because that's what Lex said. He said, "Next time I see you, bring me his heart," or whatever, at the end of season 3. So Lex and his his whatever cohort are talking, and they said the thing. I hit the Leo meme. They said the thing. They go, I can't remember if it was Lex or I think it was Lex that says it, but he goes, "Superman's dead," and then she goes, "Should we tell Brainiac?" And he goes,
Interesting.
"Not yet." He's like, "We're going to hold that information off." And I was like, "Oh my god!"
Interesting.
Also, no idea how they're going to bring back Superman. Zero idea, because of something I'm keeping it as spoiler free as possible. I only let you know that he died because it obviously was in all the promotional material.
Obviously.
We're doing Death of Superman.
It was everywhere.
So yeah, but I have no idea how they're going to bring him back, to be honest. And they go to the Fortress of Solitude to see what they can do. And there's a hologrammed image of Tyler Hoechlin's Superman talking to his kids from the afterlife,
Okay.
with old like classic like Kryptonian like garb on, like not
Yep.
like just Superman suit, but just like if he was a general for the Kryptonian army. And they talk to his real mother also. Kara L, is that her? I can't remember Superman's mom's name. Not Martha, obviously, but
remember.
the real one. But so yeah, the 2 episodes were really good, really emotional. Everyone's going to be comparing this obviously to what we got with Snyder. I don't want to do that because they're 2 completely different mediums.
Totally different.
We've had 3+ seasons now at this point of this Superman, which is why I always thought that was a mistake in the Snyder verse to kill him in the second movie, but that's whatever. But this it was incredibly emotional. In this universe, in the middle of season 3, Lana found out who Superman is, and her daughter,
Interesting.
who is dating one of Superman's kids. So like when Superman's body falls and Lois turns him over and she's there with the kids, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's Lois and her friend Superman," and Lana's there and she's like, "Everyone give them space, like Lois and her friend Superman, like, you know, they're like best friends, blah blah blah." I have a feeling that the town's gonna find out who he is or his real identity
Right.
at some point. But I have no idea where they're going with this season, and I do hope we get Brainiac at the end of it because it's the last season, so it's no point in teasing him like that if you're not going to have him in the show.
We had Brainiac one time in live
Yes.
action. That was Smallville.
Which was Lois and Clark. Oh yeah, Smallville. They didn't do it in Lois. And Clark. Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, Lois and Clark didn't.
Okay.
No. But Smallville did. The guy who was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer
Yes.
played him, right? Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we've all wanted this done really
Yeah.
well in live action, and CW has a bigger budget now than they did in Smallville, so we'll see. Hopefully we get there.
We want to see it in a movie universe. We wanted to see it
Yes.
with Cavill, but it never
Yes.
got there.
And that's where
we
they're
wanted to see
going.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted to see it for a very long time, so I'm glad to hear that. Penguin, episode 3 comes out on Sundays now. This show is very, very good. And
Jesus
you're
Christ, this
right.
episode. Oh my god.
You're right. The beginning of the episode is amazing because it's a flashback to the Batman. It's Vic's origin story, and it's the flood that happens in Gotham City, and shows what happens to his family, what happens to him, and the PTSD that it creates him. He already has this problem with stuttering throughout the series so far, but just having that knowledge of what happened to him in the past is incredible. There's a new drug in town, Bliss, created in Arkham Asylum, or State Hospital, whatever they're calling it.
Sounds like
Already
sounds like
hinted to Poison
Scarecrow.
Ivy
Sounds like that.
or Scarecrow. It does sound a lot like Scarecrow.
Yep.
Being a mushroom, it sounds like it could be Poison Ivy as well.
Yep.
So we're
that
not
too.
sure.
Yep.
But next week, the preview for next week is Sophia's origin story.
Yes.
And it's all about her in the asylum. So I cannot wait.
I
for
saw,
that. The previews
who
look
was it?
good.
Sean O'Connell tweeted out after this episode. He said, "We just got the Vic episode." He's like, "Next we get the Sophia episode, and you guys aren't ready for that." This is apparently where the show actually gets good, which is what
Okay.
excites me the most. Is people say that
Wow.
episode 4 on is where the show takes off, which is fucking insane because episode 1
Wow.
on is where I'd say it took off. Episode 3 was incredible, and it puts the Batman movie into a whole new perspective.
Okay, cool. How many episodes are we talking? Is there 6 or 8?
8,
Okay, cool. So yeah, we've got 5 left. So that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Comes out Sundays. Movies. We're gonna start off with this one because I just want to get it out of the way like a band-aid, just rip it off. The Crow, Wicked Prayer. This came out in the year 2005, so it came out almost 20 years ago.
Yep.
Edward Furlong, who had only been in 2 movies at this time, American History X, which I know you're a fan of,
Great movie.
and Terminator 2. And there's a lot of little B movies, C movies, E movies mixed in there too in between, but for some reason they cast him as the Crow in this movie. I don't even remember what his name was. Tara Reid, straight out of American Pie,
Pie.
the whole franchise, basically the only movie besides Van Wilder I think she was in. David Boreanaz, who was in, I think he was in one of the Scream movies, right? Or he was in something. He was in.
He's
he's
one of
an
those guys where
angel.
you've seen him. You've seen him.
He's
I don't know
in-
if it was. He might have been like Urban Legend. He was in one of those. I don't think it was a Scream
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was a movie that was around the Scream movies when they were
Yeah, it
doing
could
all
have
those
been.
teen movies.
But he was Angel. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yep.
Emmanuel Cheriki, who was in Entourage, and of course
And Superman
Lana.
Lois.
Yep.
Yep.
Dennis Hopper, who for some reason decides to pick every 10 years shitty movies. I don't think he's alive anymore, but 10 years before this, he picked, of course, the notorious Mario Brothers movie to play
And-
King Koopa.
Yeah, 10 years before that, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I believe, came out in 1982.
Wow. Oh, shit.
And
So
that
you're
movie
right.
is one big ball of suck.
Dennis Hopper, every 10 years, shitty movie, shitty iconic movie. Tito Ortiz, this cast is fucking nuts. Tito Ortiz, who you know more than I do about him, but he's a shitty fucking actor.
Oh, he's not good.
Danny Trejo, I think this is before Machete, and I even think this
Yep.
may be before some of the Rodriguez movies. And one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a movie ever is Macy Gray. I don't know what the fuck rock they got Macy Gray under. But she played one of the whores that was in Dennis Hopper's harem.
Yep.
This
And don't
movie is
forget about
fucking
the guy from
trash.
fucking Shark Tank randomly just smoking a blunt in the car.
Well,
who was one of
you
the
asked me
producers on
about
it.
that. He produced the movie. The
Yeah.
guy Draymond, whatever his name is,
I was like, that guy
produced
looks so
actually
familiar.
produced it,
Because my mom
Yeah,
used to
he-
love
and then he-
watching Shark Tank.
and he
So
was in
I've
there.
seen
He was riding the limo in the movie. But
Mm-hmm.
based on the novel, not from the comic book of the same name, released in the year 2000, not done by Aubert. The history of this movie, we've talked about it before. The July of 2000, DMX was going to make his Crow Lazarus movie, and that was supposed to be a rapper who chooses to leave the music scene for the love of a woman, and is killed during a drive-by shooting. The rapper is then resurrected by the Crow in order to take revenge on the gang responsible for his death. And you've talked about how the rumor was because of Eminem coming out of 8 Mile,
Yes.
he was going to be part of the white gang that attacked him,
Yep.
which would have been funny, but that film never came to be. He dropped out of it completely. Director Lance Mungia expected to take the film to take 6 months to make, and ended up taking 3 years to make this film from beginning to actually coming out on direct-to-video, and that's what it did. It came out direct-to-video. I believe it aired maybe in Seattle for one weekend, and then it came out on DVD. But 0% on Rotten Tomatoes,
Yep.
universally despised by audiences and critics alike, for obvious reasons. The fight scenes in this, if that's what you want to call them, Edward
They're not
Furlong trying to fight as the Crow was the one thing I took from this was
Well,
awful.
you know,
The one thing out
Meth
of
will fuck up your
hundreds.
fighting abilities.
And of course, he's definitely strung out on this. There's something wrong with him. The love story between him and Sloane from Entourage,
Terrible.
you could believe that if you wanted to. It looked like Edward Furlong was just trying to make out with her, and that's the only reason he took this movie on. Wasn't to be the Crow, was to make out with Sloane from Entourage. But this movie was trash, and I know this this made your Crow ranking of the new one go way up.
Yep.
Which has
Little
me
bit.
excited
A little bit.
because this movie was fucking trash. I'm glad we're through the old Crows because this is a history of this movie where started off at such a high point, and studio interference, as we've been talking a lot about lately. Studio interference trying to make the next big thing, but not having great creative people coming in there and writing these stories and having stories written. But we'll talk about the new one next week. But I hear there's problems with that too. I know you may have issues. You may like some of it. We're going to talk about all of that next week and finish this Crow watch and talk about where we could go from here. But overall, if I had to rate everything, Crow 1, 4.5 out of 5. Everything else, 0. It's grimaces all around.
Yeah.
Grimace here. You get a grimace. You get a grimace. You get a grimace.
The Crow to me is a
awful
5 out of
acting.
5 every day of the week.
Yeah. It could be.
I'll give a little love to City of Angels because I did enjoy that when I was 14 when I saw it or whatever.
That fucking lead in that movie though. That
It's so bad.
that
Like
Spanish guy or whatever he's
I
from.
wish it killed all nostalgia I had when I rewatched it, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed it as a child. But yeah, I mean, I'd probably go 5, 1.5 grimace is probably where I'd go.
1.5 grimace. So for me, 4.5 grimace so far, and then next week we'll get into the new one, which between you and Chris, who's friend of the pod, who tells me it's the worst movie he's ever seen.
Nah,
And
it's not even the worst movie this year.
Okay. That's good to know. We did see that Murderous Christmas Tree movie a couple years ago, and that was the biggest grimace we put on this show.
Yeah.
So, I think up until this week when the Crow Wicked Prayer came out, that would be true. But the acting in this movie was atrocious. A movie I did like, a movie I really liked actually, and I think it may be my favorite of the trilogy, Maxine. Of course, we talked about X, we've talked about Pearl, and this is Maya Goth coming back as Maxine. And of course, X, she played the porn star, set in the 70s. They were kind of in a farm, and they were being murdered by this older lady named Pearl, which was the second movie. This is our origin story of the old lady who killed everybody in the first one. Maxine is the only one who survived the first movie, so this picks up where that leaves off. And Maxine is set in the 80s in L.A., and the thing I love about this movie the most is just the history of Hollywood. There's a lot of little, like when they go in the Psycho House, there's a lot of little history nods I love about this movie.
Is that the Warner Brothers backlot or the Universal backlot? It's one of the backlots.
I believe so. Yeah, one of them, yeah.
It was really cool to see a lot of that stuff. Like they took their time with putting the history of Hollywood in this movie.
We saw Back to the Future. We saw the clock tower in the background. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. And there's also history involved in this. The real Night Stalker. They kind of lump that into this story as well. That was a real thing that happened in the 80s. The cast in this is incredible too. He brought in a lot of A-listers. Kevin Bacon being the one, Bobby Carnival, Halsey, who's a singer, Lily Collins, we just talked about her recently, Michelle Monaghan, Giancarlo Esposito, he's in everything, and Damon John. Oh wait, I don't know why I had that there because that should be up top. But yeah, Maxine, great movie. My favorite of the trilogy. Do you know where this franchise is going from here? Has he talked about making another movie? Or
I don't think they've talked about making another movie yet.
Okay.
My favorite of the trilogy is the first one. I don't know.
Okay.
I like
That
them
makes
all, but
sense.
for very different reasons.
They're different
the first
movies,
one was like
completely different.
Yeah, like the first was like a callback to like 70s horror, which I absolutely loved. Then the second one's like I can't compare the second one to any movie I've ever seen, let alone a horror movie. And then this one's more of like a mystery film without much horror elements to it, which is probably why it came out in July and not August.
They're all period. They're all they're all period pieces, but the second
Yeah.
one is set in the 20s, right? So it's very
Yeah,
very much a
which
period
actually worked
piece.
out, and that's only because
Worked great,
the
yeah.
pandemic of 1918. So in the pandemic
Yeah.
they were going through at the time, so it worked out great for the filming of it.
Perfect. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're all like 4.5s to me. They're just for completely different reasons. Her acting, of course, she gives another great monologue in Maxine. This time it's in the beginning and not the end. In the end of Pearl, it was at the end of Pearl, where she's just fucking insane.
Ballin'.
But yeah, I love this entire trilogy, as they're all just so different, but yet they fit together so well at the same time. It's weird.
Yep. Yeah, great movie. Another great movie, which took me 10 years to watch, The Conjuring. I fucking love this movie.
Oh, it's great.
I have not seen anything other than this one, and I'm being told to watch the whole entire series. I hear there's some hits and misses.
There is some misses later on. Like when they get into the
yeah.
spin-offs, there's some misses, but I think Conjuring 5 just came out, I believe, and it was Patrick Wilson's debut.
Yeah, I have it. I have it in the notes.
Okay.
I don't know which one it is. But yeah, Patrick Wilson stars in this. Vera Farmiga, whatever you say her name. She was in the Psycho remake. Was that Bates Hotel, whatever it is. Ron Livingston. Lily
Awesome.
Taylor, who was in a movie called The Haunting in the year 2000 with Liam Neeson. That was a great
I remember that movie. Yep.
And Joey King, she's in a lot of stuff now, but she was a young actress when she was in this. $20 million budget, made $319 million worldwide, so now you know why this is a franchise, because it's low budget, making huge money. Studio was happy about that. Franchise has 8 films, soon to be a 9th. There is a new Conjuring movie coming out, I believe 2025. I didn't write it down, but and it's all set around exaggerated real life experiences of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they are ghosts, psychics, investigators that investigated a lot of stuff in the 60s, 70s, and this is one of the stories that happened. If you want a quote-unquote true story, but it all depends on what your opinion of ghosts are. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the horror element of this, and I know the second one, The Nun, debuts. This one you had the doll. I can't remember what's the doll's name. I want to say Abigail, but I know Annabelle.
Annabelle, yeah.
That debuts, and that becomes a franchise as well. That's based off a true story, which I knew about years ago.
In the movie Aquaman, at the bottom of the ocean, there's an Annabelle doll in that movie.
That's right. Yeah, because James Wan did that too,
Yep.
right? Yeah. Okay, makes perfect sense. But overall, the whole entire franchise has made $2.2 billion with a combined budget of $208 million. So the thing makes gangbusters for them. It became the highest-grossing horror franchise ever. So I'm looking forward to get into this. I think I may do it. I was going to wait every Halloween, but I think I may do it just this month alone to get it through them all. We'll see, but yeah, very good, very good. It gave me nightmares, so that must mean it was good. A movie that I was high on in the beginning, kind of low on in the middle, and it got a little lower at the end. Killer's Game. I liked it in the beginning. I thought it looked really good. This was directed by a former.
Yeah,
it did.
I watched it the other night.
It directed by a former stuntman named J.J. Perry. Did a lot of stunts in the 90s. I think he did Mortal Kombat movies and stuff like that. But the stars Dave Bautista, Ben Kingsley, Sofia Boutella, who was in that movie, Rebel Moon. Palm, who was in the Guardians movies. She played Mantis. Drew McIntyre, yes, the wrestler. He was in this. Terry Crews. Alex Kingston, who was in Doctor Who. She played Ben Kingsley's wife. But overall, like I mentioned, beginning of the movie, a lot of great stuff happens. You saw it in the trailer. The lead, played by Dave Bautista, believes he's getting sick, and he doesn't want to kill himself, so he wants to have this insurance policy paid off to his girlfriend, who was played by the lady who was in Rebel Moon. So he can't commit suicide, so he asks Ben Kingsley to put a hit out on him. Come to find out, the wrong results happen, and he is going to live, so he has to stop the hit. Ben Kingsley won't do the hit, so he goes to Palm, and her character hates Dave Bautista's character and refuses to release the hit. So the whole entire movie after that is Dave Bautista running for his life. And some of the action in the middle of the movie was great. And then it started going down. And I think the ending, when it was all set in this weird church at the end, that's kind of where it took me out of it.
Same.
And yeah, it got weird towards the end. But overall, story itself is good on paper. I think it could have been executed a little bit better. But for me, it's like probably a 3 out of 5. Not something I would go out of my way to watch again, but on paper it sounded good. And we loved
It's
the
one of those
trailer
movies
when we
where
first saw
if
it.
you're just scrolling Netflix and you see it, turn it on.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's not like it's going to take too much time of your day. It's fine.
Yep. A movie I was very, very happy. I saw the 4:30 movie, Kevin Smith's new movie. This movie was really good. Just came out. A lot of guest stars, but the main stars were all young kids. Austin, who is Harley Quinn's his daughter's boyfriend, was the lead. Kind of played the Kevin Smith-like character. This is all kind of based off of his life, and we'll get into the after credit scene in a minute. But this is all kind of based off of Kevin Smith and living in the 80s, sneaking into movie theaters, finding his love for film, and where that goes from there. A lot of guest stars, though. We had Method Man, Sam Richardson, he was in Veep, he's in a whole bunch of shit. Ralph Garman, who I talk about on the podcast every once in a while, he does a Hollywood Babylon with Kevin. Ken Jeong, Jeff Anderson, Kevin, Justin Long, Jay Muse, Jason Biggs, American Pie, Dietrich Bader, Logic, the rapper, Rachel Dratch, Jason Lee, Adam Paley, who was in a show called Happy Endings, which is amazing, and Rosario. So a lot of these actors have been in Kevin Smith movies prior. He does that a lot anyway, but I loved it. And the 80s soundtrack was great. Kind of had a great soundtrack to where this movie was set. Brought you right into it. In the movie where they're sneaking into, there's a lot of cool fake trailers. Reminded me of those Robert Rodriguez movies and the Grindhouse movies back in the day. But overall, the movie is about a teen love story. But deep down, it's about an obsessed movie lover's love of cinema. And that's basically where the movie ends up going. Where this Austin kid who ends up playing the Kevin Smith character finds his love for movies, sneaking into theater, learning more, reading all the trades at the time. No internet, of course. So reading all the trades about movies and directors and producers and how movies are made. And that gets you to the mid-credits scene, where he's sitting outside, they're talking, he's like, I gotta do it, I gotta just pull the Band-Aid off and do it. And then they go out, and you see what they're looking at, and they're looking at the front of Quick Stop, beginning of Clerks. He's talking about maybe applying for the job there. So we already know that this is set. This is definitely a prequel to Kevin's life, and I'd mentioned it last week, I think, that Kevin had already talked about if he made a sequel to this movie, it would be him working at Quick Stop and becoming a director and making Clerks. That would be what the next movie would be. But yeah, I love this movie. The after credit scene was a huge gag reel too, which was great. Brian O'Halloran, who played Dante in Clerks, had a little quick cameo in that. He had a cut scene in the movie. He played a priest, which I thought was funny. But overall, good movie. I probably had like a 3.5 out of 5. And very enjoyable. Not one of my favorites. We're going to talk about some more Kevin Smith news later that I'm very excited for. But yeah. But a couple of big things. Halloween. We've talked about a couple of movies, but now we're going to talk about a comic book. The Long Halloween. It took me 2 months to read it. I read the first half back in August, I think, when I first got it. And I read the second half this week. But set over in 1996 or 1997, do you remember? It's around that time sometime. But
I think it was 96 into 97, yeah.
But we got 13 issues that came out, and then the deluxe edition, which is the one I have right there, the trade paperback. But very good, and you kind of definitely get where the Dark Knight and the Batman Begins, and of course the Batman. You get all the influences from that, and you definitely are brought into this world. And this story is great because each comic brings in a rogue villain from the Batman Rogue Gallery, which is fantastic. And of course,
and there's a bunch of little side stories and stuff as opposed to just having one main story. Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite comics.
Yeah, and it's all set up with the main villain being Holiday. It's somebody who is killing people in the Falcone family, which we talk about Falcone when we watch The Penguin. Killing people off in the Falcone family little by little, and we're trying to figure out who this Holiday villain is. We're not sure who it is. And that's the whole mystery of the whole entire miniseries. But yeah, overall great. And the end, the big twist. There's a couple of big twists at the end, and we're gonna get into that in a minute because I wanted to show this first. This is just the villains all team up at the end of the movie. You got Solomon Grundy, Mad Hatter, Joker, Penguin. We got Poison Ivy. We've got Catwoman, Scarecrow. They're all team up at the end. But I did watch the animated version that came out a couple years ago. That's the Batman Deluxe Edition. It was released in 2 parts. Deluxe Edition released in a complete set, but totally different. I was surprised how they changed the story. The main villain of the comic book, who was a Falcone, the younger son of the Falcones, was killed off in the beginning of the movie. And the villain was completely changed a little bit. I mean, should I get into spoilers? I guess it doesn't really matter. We're talking about the comic book.
Fucking 2.5-year-old anime film, and from what I remember, was the Riddler
taken out of it completely. The Riddler wasn't in the movie at all.
That's right. Okay.
And
I just remember they changed a lot of it.
The villain, the only villain, you find out at the end in the comic book, you find out that Harvey Dent's wife was protecting Harvey and doing killings as well. On top of the Falcone, Alberto, or whatever his name was, Antonio, I can't remember what his name was. In the cartoon, the Holiday Killer was strictly Harvey Dent's wife. She was the one that was doing all the killing.
Yep.
Also, I know this is set in a DC animated universe that has already been created before. So, in the animated movie, Batman and Catwoman know their own secret identities to each other. That wasn't in the comic book. He already knew who Joker was. I believe in The Long Halloween, he is just starting to realize who the Joker was. In this, he had a long history with him at this point in the animated movie. Other than that, I mean, the cast of this movie, we had Naya Rivera, who was in Glee. She had just passed away a couple years before this, did all of her voices. She played Catwoman. Jason Eccles, who played Batman. Of course, he's in Supernatural. He was in Smallville. He's in a whole bunch of shit. Jack Quaid, he played the what's his name, Falcone. Troy Baker does a lot of video games, of course. Last of Us. He did the Joker. Josh Duhamel played Harvey Dent. David Dastmalchian played Calendar Man, who played a big part in the comic book as well. And Billy Burke, who was in the Twilight movies, played James Gordon. And Titus Welliver, who was in I can't remember the name of that, Bosch or whatever that show is on Amazon. He played Carmine Falcone. So pretty huge cast, voice cast, of course. But yeah, I liked it. I liked the comic book a little bit better though. I think the animated series took a lot of detours. I don't know why. I don't know why they stopped the Falcone thing. I don't know why they just made it strictly Harvey Dent's wife. But yeah, very good. Very good. I liked it. And we're going to talk about The Crow probably either next week or the week after. I haven't decided yet because I just got it in the mail this week. I haven't read it yet. But we're going to talk about this comic book because you brought it up and I ended up reading it. Absolute Batman #1. The cover on the right is the one you have, done by Jim Lee.
Yep.
And that's the one on the left is the one that's on newsstand. So overall, what they're doing is there's some sort of a thing. I read up a little bit about it, where this Absolute Universe started back in the summer or sometime this year, and they're in a whole other universe, Elseworld of the DC universe. And in this universe, Batman is totally different.
Yep.
He's
poor.
Big, huge, poor, muscular. Alfred is hunting him down. You find that out in the first issue. Technically,
Alfred's hunting criminals. And Batman shows up when Alfred's about to take out said criminals, and Alfred decides to not kill the Batman. I love it because I love how it's completely different. Like in this world, his mother's still alive, and his father is the one that's dead. Yeah. And his suit, the axe. What'd you think of the axe? His symbol.
That was really cool.
And
he cuts some guy's arm off immediately.
His ears become knives, which is awesome. and he's stabbing
Yep.
people. Alfred notes that he's stabbing people within like millimeters of where he would have killed them. Yeah, I really like this take because it's completely different. And then, of course, it's Black Mass seems to be the villain of this. While they're setting up the Joker will be in it at some point, which we see in the epilogue.
Yeah, right there.
Great start. Great start.
Yep. Yeah, great start. I don't think I'm going to read another issue, but I wanted to, since you were talking about it this week, I wanted to read into it a little bit and read the first issue, so I did as well. But the big thing we're going to be talking about this week is one of Kevin's first loves. And that would be a movie called Fight Club. And you're going to be leading this talk a lot. I do have some notes, but if you had the DVD, you saw that warning in the beginning of the movie. Which is basically Burton Tyler, talking to the audience in warning. If you're watching a DVD, you used to always see these warnings, don't copyright this movie. However, this is just basically Tyler telling you off. I thought that was very funny. But the movie is directed by David Fincher. Of course, he's done Seven, Zodiac, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Social Network, starring Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, Helena Bonham Carter, who had done a few movies before this, but she hadn't really been in the Tim Burton universe yet. Meatloaf as Bob with bitch tits, and Jared Leto. Those are the big actors that have big, huge movies in this. I didn't want to bring this up because I always forget about it, but the beginning of the movie, before you're introduced to Tyler, you are seeing these flashes of Tyler throughout the movie in very, very quick scenes, what am I thinking of?
Little like half-second clips.
Yeah, half seconds, not even that. And you can't even blink and miss it because you don't see it unless they take screenshots like this, and this is what they are. It's just him sitting in the background of different scenes that the Edward Norton character is looking at. But the movie is all about, you want to give the little bit of quick synopsis of the movie, but basically what the movie is about?
Yeah, basically, it's about, parts of it are about consumerism. A lot of it was before its time. Of course, this movie, I believe it flopped at the box office.
It did.
And it's since become a cult hit. But yeah, then of course you meet Tyler and they start a fight club together, which is just the beginning of this whole plan to essentially take down corporate America.
It really reminded me. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of a supervillain, like a comic book supervillain, the whole entire time I was watching the end of this movie. Yeah. Because Tyler, we're going to get into some spoilers, but this movie's been out for 25 years. That's why we're doing it. 25th anniversary is on the 15th of this month. And you meet the character, Edward Norton's character, who you're never really given the name of. In the script, I believe his name is Jack. Yes. But in the movie, they never name him. Yeah. The narrator. He narrates the whole entire movie. And he goes to these support groups because he's an insomniac. He goes to the support groups to try to feel, I guess. And every time he goes to a support group, he has a different name tag. The narrator, but he's never named officially. And he ends up meeting Helena Bonham Carter, her character there. And then eventually he ends up meeting Tyler on a plane. And the big twist of this movie, where we're going to get into it now, if you haven't seen the movie, sorry, but Tyler and Edward Norton's character are the same character. Yes. He's an insomniac, so he starts having visions of Edward Norton. I mean, of Brad Pitt.
Right.
Tyler.
Brad Pitt's
showing
like
up.
The cool version of him that he could never risk to be, basically. He's the version that he wants to be. Yeah.
Everything that Brad Pitt is doing, it's actually him. He's just kind of showing it through his eyes. Like he's watching things, but he's actually doing it. I thought this was funny when I was taking the notes. Brad Pitt voluntarily visited a dentist to remove pieces of his front teeth, chip them off so the character would not have perfect teeth. He eventually fixed them after the movie filmed. I thought that was pretty funny. Original ideas of casting. I like getting into these type of things. The narrator, the original idea was Matt Damon or Sean Penn. Tyler Durden, the original idea was Russell Crowe. This is before Gladiator. Marla, who was played by Helena Bonham Carter, the original idea was Janine Garofalo. And then they were going to do Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Courtney Love, Winona Ryder, Reese Witherspoon, I think Sarah Michelle Gellar was pretty close, but she was still attached to Buffy, so she couldn't leave the show. But so they ended up going with Helena Bonham Carter, who I thought was great in this.
She's awesome.
But like I mentioned, the big twist is Tyler is him. They're both together. They're both the same. And it's foreshadowed throughout the whole entire movie's teasing it. Like every scene that you see them together, there's one scene where Tyler is fighting in the pit. And every time he's being hit, you see Edward Norton in the corner. He's wincing like he's in pain too. Like he's being hit because technically he is.
Yep.
So overall, the movie and like the very ending of it, like you mentioned, he becomes the supervillain who's trying to take out the world, pretty much trying to take out money and everything about glutton of everything of the world, and ends up blowing up the whole entire city. And Tyler's up in the rooftop watching the world fall apart, pretty much through his eyes. And then he realizes that he's Tyler, and everything happens at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're a big fan of the book too.
Yep.
So I want to get your take on the book and the movie, and comparing the comparisons of the two, and what your thoughts of everything are with the movie in general.
The book, I haven't read the book in 25 years.
Right.
Because I read it the one and only time after I seen the movie. But from what I remember, the book, it goes much more like in the movie they do all these like terrorist stuff, like they blow up a bunch of like computer screens,
Yes.
for instance. In the book, he describes how they blow up the computers. By basically taking the light tubes out of the back of them and specifically drilling holes where you have to, and then filling them with gasoline, then covering it up, putting it back in the computer, and that's why they all blow up. You get in-depth lessons on how to create napalm in the book, where in the movie they just kind of gloss over it.
Yep.
And whatnot. And I think in the book, the narrator dies.
Okay.
But there is a second and a third book, including the narrator, so that might just be like Sorry, did we dip out for a second?
Yeah, we did. We
just
did. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, the book, I just remember really liking it.
Okay. Yeah, so overall, great movie. 25th anniversary of this movie. I wanted to talk about it. And yeah, I love both of these actors. I love the whole entire cast of this movie. And seeing Meatloaf with bitch tits is weird too. A lot of funny moments with him in it. But overall, great movie. And with that being said, let's get into the news. And it's not a news time without the trailer roundup. Only one trailer to talk about this week, and that is... Oh, fuck, of course I don't have it up here. A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie starring Timothée Chalamet. He does some singing in this trailer. Also starring Edward Norton, speaking of Fight Club. Elle Fanning. Movie looks really good, and I love his singing. This is done by James Mangold.
Yeah. Yep.
James Mangold, of course, did Logan. Looks really good, and I think they did in the trailer. They did like a Rolling Stone. I think he sounds just like Dylan, so he did a great job at that. But weekend box office last week, Joker did $40 million, even though it's a mid number. They're considering it a failure. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, you're freezing again. I don't know if it's your internet. Can you hear me? I'll wait till you come back. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, you're freezing. I don't know. Yeah, Joker, $40 million. Like I said, it's kind of middle of the road, but it's considered a failure. The movie had a huge budget. I think it was like $200 million or something.
I'm looking forward to watching this movie back to back with the original.
Okay.
I suggest. Yeah, I know you talked about wanting to do Joker again, but I would suggest doing that the same week.
I will,
because I want to see how it works as a part one and part two, because I think it'll be working better that way than just on its own.
Yeah, I almost watched it this week, and I was thinking the same thing you did, so I'm waiting, holding off on it. Number 2, Wild Robot, 18.7. I keep hearing great things about that. And Beetlejuice came out on digital this week, $10.3 million for number 3. Joker Folie à Deux suffered an even worse box office in the international. Oh, man. Well, I'm not international yet. Even worse than the first movie. Sorry, everybody. $39 million was the first movie. It made $37.8 million. And actually, the number went down from what I had in the beginning. It was projected for that, and then I think Tuesday the regular numbers came out. But internationally, this is what I was getting to. It launched in 76 overseas markets, made $77 million. It was projected to make 81.1. Total earned last week was 114.8 million worldwide. Like I said, $200 million budget plus marketing plus everything else. It's considered a box office failure, critically and commercially. People aren't liking it. James Gunn has smartly reminded fans that it is not his and Peter Safran's doing. He had nothing to do with the movie at all. It was before DC Studios came to be. This movie had taken shape, and this was Todd Phillips' movie completely. They've given him full reign. It's basically considered a Warner Brothers movie from what I read,
Yes,
not a
it is.
DC movie. Joaquin Phoenix, Arthur Fleck was never the Joker. At least that's what Todd Phillips says. He's always been Arthur Fleck. I don't want to get into the big spoiler at the end, so I'm not going to continue this article. But yeah, he's just the unwilling icon, which we kind of get from the first movie anyway. But but the idea from Joker 2 ultimately came from a dream that Joaquin Phoenix had. I read that this week. And Todd Phillips wanted nothing to do with DC. And he was given a $200 million budget. And he's completely taken himself off of social media. Distanced himself from DC now. Distanced himself from the character of the Joker, saying he's never going to come back to DC or Warner Brothers or DC again. Continue this character. So, yeah, I don't want to get into the big spoiler that we both know about, but I'm not going to play the P. Diddy watch because we were flagged in Russia and Bulgaria because I did the beginning of what the fuck is that song with what's his name?
Is it? What did you do? Bad Boys for Life?
No, when he goes, "Bad Boys, come out and play." That was flagged in Russia and Bulgaria, so I can't play that right now until I edit that sound. But Diddy's A-list pals quietly are paying off the victims to avoid being publicly named. There's gonna be more of this coming out. I don't know if we're ever gonna see this list. By the sound of it, the list is huge, and there's a lot of big names on there. And I'm guessing one of them is probably Usher because I think, what was it, Usher and somebody else completely deleted all of their Instagram posts around the time that Diddy was arrested. So I'm guessing there's a lot of shady shit going on there. But we'll get into this. We'll get to the bottom of this probably in the next year or two, however long. He's going into he's going to be, I think, January going into trial. So he's in jail till then. He was denied parole again. So or denied bail. Will Smith is in talks to star in Fast and Loose with Michael Bay. He's in talks to direct it. A film follows a man who wakes up with no memories, but soon learns that he's been living two lives. One as a crime kingpin, and the other as an undercover CIA agent. God, everybody forgives Will Smith pretty easily after he smacked the shit out of Chris Rock. Nobody gives a shit about that.
The premise of this sounds great. I just wish it wasn't Michael Bay doing it.
Lots of explosions. But Reacher, movie, TV show I need to get into. Renewed for a fourth season on Amazon. I'm going to be getting into that probably this winter if I can. Got a new poster for Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson. Trailer looks great. Steven Yeun stars in this. Mark Ruffalo. All about that guy who is the 17th version of himself as a clone. Comes out on January 31st of next year. So excited about that. Speaking of movies, new popcorn buckets. Got a new popcorn bucket and cup coming out for Gladiator 2 in November. And got new popcorn buckets and cups for Wicked, which comes out in November as well, a week after, I believe. Yeah, I'm excited for both of those movies. Probably Wicked a little bit more, because I can't believe Gladiator is actually being made. 20 years
And-
later, 25 years
and-
later.
He is also working on Gladiator 3's script right now.
Yep, I heard that
That
too.
came out. Yep.
Yep. Christopher Nolan's movie set a new date for July 17th, 2026. Christopher Nolan doing another movie. And Matt Damon is in talks to star in it.
Yep.
Matt Damon was, of course, in Oppenheimer, so it makes perfect sense he's bringing in somebody he's worked with before. Yeah, I'm excited to see. No word on what the movie's about. Of course, he keeps that close to the vest until the trailer comes out, and even when the movie comes out, you don't find out what the movie's really about. So, kind of excited about that. Speaking of Christopher Nolan and people he's worked with, Tom Hardy signed on to be in a movie with done by Guy Ritchie. Called The Associate, also with Helen Mirren and Pierce Brosnan, coming out on Paramount Plus. It's actually a series. According to Deadline, it's going to be a gangster drama that was originally going to be The Donovans. Is based off a spinoff of Ray Donovan, but that fell through. That had Liev Schreiber in it. A show I've never watched, but I wanted to see. But it ended up being turned into this movie that Guy Ritchie came in and is going to be directing it, or TV show. But it's all about a gangster family who has family fortunes and reputations at risk, and odd alliances and betrayal. So yeah, it's some kind of a gangster type drama in modern day. Sounds good. Limp Bizkit has filed a lawsuit against its label Universal Music Group, saying that the company is holding back $200 million of unpaid royalties. Their music is played everywhere. So they must have figured out something, especially now. For some reason, Limp Bizkit is having a resurgence in popularity.
Yes,
Same with Creed. Creed is too right now. So I don't know if it's just nostalgia because it's 25 years ago, but yeah, we'll see what that happens. They're going to be opening for Metallica next year. So weird news. Nintendo announces an interactive alarm clock called Alarmo. I see this on paper and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then I watch the video. It looks fucking awesome. Like, if you don't have an alarm clock and you want an alarm clock, this is pretty fucking cool. It's interactive. It interacts with you through different characters with the Nintendo universe. One of them being Mario, of course. It's their flagship. Another one being Legend of Zelda. You're gonna have a whole set of timepieces, clocks that you can have on there. That's going to change. Like the one I have on the picture here is of Mario. Of course, that's that's from Mario, the game Mario. But you have one that the font changes to Breath of the Wild, and there are going to be other different downloadable ones throughout the future of this product whenever it comes out. Going to be coming out in 2025 for $999. But yeah. I don't know. It looks stupid on paper, but then seeing the video, it does look kind of cool watching Link waking you up, running across the screen as you're trying to wake up with your alarm going off. But yeah. Halo. Major shakeup in the studios. They announced that they're rebranding the studios to Halo Studios and announcing all future games will be shifting to Unreal Engine, which looks fucking cool. I don't know if you've seen some of the Unreal Engine pictures from Halo, but it does look really cool if they're going to change to that. But yeah, it was done by 343 Industries and they're rebranding it to a Halo studio. It makes sense. It's their flagship. Xbox's one unique property that they have that nobody else has. It's not on PlayStation. I don't think any of those games have ever been on PlayStation. There's always been rumors of the Halo games.
Halo and Gears are like the two flagships.
Gears of War,
on either one, yeah.
Yep. Which it's weird nowadays because there's just so much cross-platforming now. But
yep.
This was announced, not officially, but leaked out yesterday. Pictures of the X-Mansion Lego set, which looks fucking amazing. It has a lot of figures, minifigures of X-Men. There's the X-Mansion, which is modular. You can take off different levels of the house to see the interior. And you get also a big Sentinel that's fighting in there, too. On the right corner with Gambit and Wolverine and Professor Xavier. Every X-Men that you know and love is in there. It looks really cool. Legos are awesome. Expensive as fuck, but awesome. A Quiet Place game. I think we talked about it a while ago. There's gonna be a console game coming out, and you can choose if you have a console and the microphone feature is on your console. In real life, if you're making noise on your controller or your microphone, whatever you're using, the aliens will come and attack you. Like in the movie, when you make noise, they kill you. That's going to happen in the game too, which is kind of cool. Coming out on PC and
Very
consoles
cool. Yep.
next year. John Mulaney. This is kind of weird because late night TV is one of those things where it was huge. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, before the internet. Now people aren't watching late night anymore. It's more quick clips the next day on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're getting your quick social media clips. That's basically where they're getting their views now. But another late night show is coming on Netflix, starring John Mulaney, weekly talk show coming out in 2025. And he had a successful show last year. It was a live show set in LA. Everybody's in LA is what it was called. But it's going to be a live weekly talker. It's going to be starring John Mulaney. He's going to be bringing guests on there. And the first live thing that's going to be on Netflix, of course, is WWE Raw. But they're going to be testing it more and more with stuff like that, too. So it's kind of cool. Another movie announced by Paul Feig, Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried to star in Lionsgate adaptation of The Housemaid. I read the synopsis of this. I forgot what it was about, but Paul Feig, of course, did Bridesmaids. He did Spy movie with. He's done a lot of movies with Melissa McCarthy, but Sydney Sweeney, of course, Hollywood's darling right now. So, the new Karate Kid film has been titled Karate Kid Legends. Comes out sometime next year. Of course, bringing in the two universes of Karate Kid, with Ralph Macchio, Jackie Chan, Ming-Na Wen, a whole bunch of other people coming out for this movie. But, yeah. Big Bang Theory. I don't think you watched too much of it or any of it. Going to be making another spin-off of that movie, of that TV show, with 3 D-list characters on that show. They were kind of just on every other episode, just like quick scenes with interacting with the main characters of the show. But they're going to be doing a spin-off. One of the guys on the left there is the one who was the owner of the comic book shop that they always went into every week. And that'd be kind of cool to see a show set in a comic book shop. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know why this show is still have so much steam to it. But to each his own. Ewan McGregor reveals that they're currently exploring ideas for Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. Adds that he wants to wear the Clone Wars armor and have more flashbacks with Hayden Christensen. I'm not opposed to that, but they need to reel in the writing of whatever they did for that first season, because that first season could have easily been a movie. It was way too long. Way too much shit happened into it. Like, the fight scenes were great. The interaction with him and Hayden were great, but other than that, we could have gone without most of that series.
Yep.
The Leia stuff, we didn't like that when we saw it. But speaking of Star Wars Episode 1, Jedi Power Battles, a game that came out in 2000. I believe it was on PlayStation only.
Yep.
But it's going to be coming out enhanced on Nintendo Switch, PS4, 5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC on January 23rd, 2025 for $20. Yeah, I never played it. I think it was a PlayStation exclusive, so I never owned it. But, yeah, we'll see about that. I saw this news today. I wanted to bring it up today. The director of the last Ghostbusters movie, Frozen Empire, has gone on to say that they're going to be making more Ghostbusters films. He also said that Netflix is going to be making a Ghostbusters series, animated series, that is going to be highly connected to whatever's been shown on movies so far. So it's going to be interactive with whatever's going on in the movies. It's not going to be separate like the animated series was in the 80s, separate from the movie universe. But yeah, I'm excited for that. Announced today, Freaky Friday, coming out August 8th, 2025. Freakier Friday, the sequel. And Lilo and Stitch, a movie coming out on May 23rd of 2025. Middle of May, right in the beginning of a summer movie blockbuster season. So, just watched Euphoria last month, and Zendaya confirms that time jump is happening in Euphoria season 3. Saying it will be fascinating to see and understand these characters outside of the context of high school, and how all the stuff that we saw when they were kids and they were in high school affects their adulthood. So yeah, I'm very excited to see that as well. But the big loss of that show, is, of course, is Angus, who played Fez, which I'm It sucks because he was awesome in that show. But we'll have to wait and see. Voltron announced this week that Henry Cavill is set to star as the lead of this. What are your thoughts on that? Shit, you're frozen again. What's going on tonight? I think we're still live, but Kevin's freezing for some reason. I don't know why. I'll wait till he comes back. No, he's gone. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll get into the Henry Cavill talk in a minute. That's weird. There you are.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, your internet's going out, I guess. That's weird.
Yeah.
We only got a few more things to talk about. We'll get off of here. Henry Cavill started talking about it. Set to star is in Voltron on Amazon Prime, a new movie. I don't know anything about this. It was before our time, but Henry Cavill, we love him. So we'll see about that. Red Notice director is going to be directing that. He's attached to direct it. Kevin Smith, we mentioned it earlier, has Dogma back. Harvey Weinstein has lost the rights to it, and another group has bought it, and he's going to be touring it next year, and he's going to be having big plans with it next year, talking about it, doing
finally get a physical release.
Physical release, and also digital release, yeah. And also maybe a sequel, because he's always talked about maybe wanting to go back in that universe. It's my favorite Kevin Smith movie, so I'm excited to see that. But
it's up there for me. I love it.
He also wants to clean it up and do a proper director's cut of it and everything, so that'd be cool. Doctor Strange 3, Sam Raimi's rumored to be directing that. Because of Gen Z backlash in Captain America Brave New World, the character of Zabra, who has an Israeli backstory in the comic books, is going to be completely erased from the movie. Of course, Israel is in war right now, so understandably, I guess, but the whole entire backstory of her character has been wiped from the movie completely. James Gunn announced a character showing up in Peacemaker. All we see is the back of the character. Looks like an Indian sitting at a powwow. We are not sure who this is going to be. I know there's a lot of Indian and American, Native American characters in the DC universe that this could be, but I'm not sure who it'll be. But we're probably going to learn more about that in the months to come. Elizabeth Henstridge will direct and star in the final season of Superman and Lois. She's going to be playing the daughter of Lex Luthor. I don't know if she showed up yet, but she was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She played one of the main characters in that show.
He tried contacting her, and she was like, I want nothing to do with you. I don't think they showed her, though.
Okay, she's going to be showing up in the season, directing an episode or two. So, and finally in news, Aaron Pierre officially cast as Jon Stewart in HBO's Lanterns. Yes. We've been talking about it for a while, hoping it was going to happen, and finally did. And of course, James Gunn also officially announced that Kyle Chandler is going to be playing Hal Jordan, another character coming back to the big screen after Ryan Reynolds run at the character back in the early 2010s. That is it for news. Excited for that news, of course. Out now, Hellboy, Crooked Man, Beetlejuice. Saturday Night came out today on at the movie theaters. The Apprentice, Terrifier 3. Mr. Crockett came out on Hulu today. I'm going to put those all on stuff to watch soon. But a movie, I don't know if we've talked about this or not, but I believe Joel Kinnaman is being typecast. Because of course he did Silent Night last year where he couldn't talk. And this movie, because he was injured, in this movie, he's injured and he can't hear. It's called The Silent Hour. It came out today on iTunes. I just noticed it. And I have no idea what the movie's about. It stars Mark Strong, Mekhi Phifer, and him. and no idea what the movie's about other than him being death throughout the whole entire movie. So he's being typecast for some sort of reason. But I wanted to bring that up. Maybe we can keep that in our radar. But I got to scroll through here. Hold on a minute. Next week, Early Murders, Agatha, Penguin. We're going to talk about the new Crow with Skarsgård, Alexander Skarsgård, right? And Bill Skarsgård. He's the one I'm thinking
Bill,
of.
not Alex.
Halloween movies. I don't know what we're watching next week. You got 2 on the docket that we want to talk about. We got Friday the 13th Part 6 and Saw. We got two more weeks of Halloween movies. I don't know what you want to continue.
Yep.
What you want to continue.
We'll talk about that off pod, but we're gonna do at least one Saw. Maybe we'll do the first Saw, maybe the second at one point, and then maybe Friday 13th Part 6 in the last week.
Yep. And I'm gonna continue watching Conjuring. I think too in there too. A movie comes out. I thought today, but it comes out on Tuesday. Alien Romulus. We're gonna talk about that next week. Also next week, we're going to be doing a Road to Venom: The Last Dance. I'm going to watch back-to-back Venom and Venom: Let There Be Carnage. The second Venom I've only seen once. I saw it in the theater, so it's been my second time watching that. Coming out on Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe, on Apple TV Plus, Shrinking Season 2 premieres. Very excited for that. I don't have Apple TV Plus, so I have to find my ways to watch that. Coming out on Prime, I believe, on Thursday, Brothers. This is the movie starring Josh Brolin and Peter Dinklage. Looked pretty funny in the trailer. Coming out the same day, The Office remake in Australia. It's going to be coming out on Prime. Also coming out on Netflix next Friday, Woman of the Hour. Very excited about that. Of course, I've been talking about it based off the dating game done by Anna Kendrick. Smile 2 comes out in theaters next Friday. And we're going to talk about the Crow comic book in a couple weeks after we let this movie settle, probably the week after. And we're also going to be watching The Joker. We talked about that Joker Folie à Deux. And then probably by the end of the month, I will go to the theater and see Venom: The Last Dance. I'm excited for that. Perfect. But that's it for the show, everybody. And thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.
We're the Geek Blurb crew, here to enlighten you. Talking all things geeky, from movies to wrestling to our podcast is the place where you wanna be for all the latest news and nostalgia from the 80s and 90s. We review comic book flicks and sci-fi hits, riding the wave of action movies with all the cool bits. From Iron Man to Star Wars, we cover it all. And when it comes to wrestling, we never drop the ball. Geek Blurb, we're the kings of the nerds. Rating movies and pineapples, our opinions never blurred. Join us each week for a geeky chat with the latest news and a dose of nostalgia that. So if you're a fan of the comic book craze, or a lover of sci-fi and all it's made,